wait for a few minutes because I know going live is so different, right? Than, of course, how we normally do these things with the Zoom setup and whatnot. So, welcome to tonight's class, whether you're here live for the first time or you're joining us afterwards and watching the recording. Either way, thank you for being here. Thank you for being here and happy Thursday, wherever you might be on the West Coast, the center, or the East Coast. It's a little bit later in the day for the East Coast people, I know. So today I'm going to just give everybody a minute while I kind of do a bit of an introduction. And then we'll get into the content and some practice and everything else because, of course, that's what we're here to do. So my name is Glenda. I'm with Miles Ahead Wellness, and I'm so happy that you are here, whether live or watching this later. So, the purpose of these sessions is to explore different topics related to self mastery in an effort to support our collective efforts to focus on moving forward towards our dreams, whatever those may be, whatever that might look like, to really allow ourselves to live life more fully, authentically as us, which is something that we talk about a lot and we will certainly bring up again today. So, in January session, we talked about sovereignty, self awareness. In February, we explored this idea of identity and how important it is to own our identity, if you will, or be intentional around our identity to build habits that really support us. And tonight, I want to talk about kind of this general question about what's best for you. How do you know what's best for me? I don't know. We're going to get into it. This month, we're talking about best self. We're talking about limiting beliefs. And then later in the month, we'll be talking or starting a conversation and a practice around gratitude, which we're all looking forward to. If you haven't watched the other episodes, they live on our YouTube channel at Miles Ahead Wellness. You can find them all there, as well as lots of other meditations, yoga nidra practices, and things to support you. So if you're here live, welcome. Grab your journal, pen, a cup of tea, and let's kind of dive into today's topic. So I started with this really big question, right? What's best for you? And it's an interesting question because I think we can come at this from a whole bunch of different angles. Um, when we think about it, we make a lot of random or seemingly random choices and hundreds of decisions every day that we don't ever even consider, right? How many times do you stop in your day to go, I wonder what's best for me in this moment? I mean, I certainly think we do when we're making bigger life choices. But how would you answer that today? What's best for you? So when I asked my husband this yesterday in preparation for today's lesson, he answered, he goes, well, all of the good habits. He's like sleeping well, eating well, working out, and all that. And all of those things are great and they may be true, but let's dive a little deeper. So let's say, for instance, we all agree that getting 8 hours of sleep every night is the best thing for us. How many hours of sleep did you have last night? Did you have those 8 hours? I know I didn't. I wish I did, but I didn't, right? So it's like, okay, we know what's best for us, but do we actually live our lives that way? And last month, we talked about this really simple but powerful practice of determining our identity, right? Of who we want to be, so that we can make then choices that align with that. And that it was much easier to create habits or do things when we owned that identity. So, for instance, one of the things was, I'm a healthy person. And what are the things that come out of that? So we begin to reprogram our autopilot, that unconscious mind, to behave a certain way based on that identity that we start to own. And so for the next live on March 16th, we're going to go deep diving into limiting beliefs and all the practices around that to support ourselves. But let's start by considering one of our biggest challenges, our subconscious mind. So this is our programmed mind, right? The habitual mind. It's our autopilot. So imagine, you're flying a plane and the autopilot is has a setting to go one direction when you really want to go in another. So you want to go, I'm in Regina, I want to go to Toronto, but the autopilot is set to go to Vancouver. Not really helpful. That's what ends up happening to most of us, right? Our autopilot runs the majority of our life. 95% of our day is actually on autopilot. So imagine you keep trying to get to Toronto, but you keep ending up in Vancouver. And although Vancouver's nice, most of the people I know are in Toronto, right? So, you can kind of start to get a bit frustrated with yourself as if you were doing something wrong, when in fact, what's going on, of course, is that the autopilot is taking you in a different direction. So, what we do for most of our day is actually predetermined by our past and our past repetitive behaviors. And the more we did something in the past, the more likely it's really ingrained in us and into that subconscious programming. So, how do we do what's best for us today if we didn't believe that was true before? Or perhaps we didn't think that we were worth the effort before. All this means that in order to start to make really sustainable change in our lives, right, we have to bring awareness, that attention of the mind to our actions, to understand the thoughts and the beliefs that preceded the action. So maybe not now, but at some time, right? So sometimes what we do is we look and we go, I don't understand why I did that. But we're looking at the current situation and wondering why we did it now, and not, well, why might that have been something based on my past? And so, how do we then make concerted efforts to install those new behaviors and beliefs? It's not so easy, and it takes a bit of concerted effort. What does that mean? Like every day, being very intentional around the identity, like last time that we talked about, to installing this new identity, these new belief structures. And we're going to dive deeper into that next time. This is part of the reason why it's exhausting to make a change, and why most people just, they don't fail, they give up, right? So I think it's really important to distinguish, how often do we give up? We give up. And so people will say, well, I failed. Well, did you fail? Did you give it enough effort to actually know that it didn't work? Or did you just give up? Because it was hard. It was effort. It took effort. It took effort every day to make that change. And then all of a sudden you wake up one day and guess what? You feel like it's true. All of a sudden you're like, wow, actually, that actually feels true to me today, even though it didn't before. So it requires us to become aware or awaken to the mind and the condition of the mind. And what is the condition of the mind? The condition of the mind is to think, is to just start generating story and meaning, to think, to think, to think. And so once we can see how the brain works, you can start to go, oh, that's why that thing happens, right? That's why that happens. So by selecting our identity, we are being intentional with who we want to be and how we want to show up, right? Again and again and again and again. So the example that we've been using, or I've been using, is I'm a healthy person, and therefore my choices are aligned with how I see a healthy person behaving. So this requires us to really start to dive into the question of values, our strengths, our gifts, and of course, context matters, right? And this is very much the topic of conversation in the first podcast episode that I did, Get Clear, because of course, clarity is empowering. Clarity is power. And I think it's really important to think about that. The more we are crystal clear on who we are, our values, our strengths, our gifts, all of a sudden we start to see those limiting beliefs in a much different way. And as soon as we become clear about it, we realize, I have power over this. I can change this. I can change this limitation and no longer make it a limitation. So it's helpful to know our conditioning which we will dive into next time. You know, many of our beliefs come from our family, society. I mean, think about the role of gender roles, and our concepts around gender, which are just concepts. They are just something that we've all unconsciously agreed to in some way, shape, or form. And as that is changing in the world, so are the belief structures around that. And we're seeing that more and more, and the importance of that. So the more we can become aware of our subconscious through self-awareness and monitoring our behaviors, the more we're able to rewrite those scripts that hold us back from living our life more fully, more unapologetically, and that we can act upon what's best for us. So I often think about this from this concept of the line, as it is above, so it is below. What does that mean? It's kind of like this macro, micro, and the relationship between these two things. So our lives, the micro, are an essential part of the whole of the macro. And the vitality, or the health of the vitality, the health and vitality of the whole is made up of each and every one of us, right? So individually, we are impacted by the whole, and the whole is basically a collection of all of us. And so, you know, on Facebook, my cover image has a quote that I love, which is, the best version of the world starts with the best version of ourselves. So who is the best version of you? You know, if we, before we can maybe answer the question, what's best for us, we have to kind of think about, well, who is the best version of me that I'm serving? So I want you to take a moment, if you have a pen, journal, just think about this question for a moment. When you feel at your very best, at the best, just think back to a moment in time where you felt your very, very best. You were confident, just strong, mentally, physically, emotionally, happy. So, what does that feel like? What are you doing? And what's the context that allows you to feel that way? What are the things that were happening around you that kind of supported that feeling? So we can start to see that there's some elements, if you will, that have kind of created this situation that has allowed you to feel this best version of you. So earlier, I introduced the concept, or the idea of connecting to your inner daimon, or your inner soul, the good soul that lives within each of us, and how the practice of connecting regularly to this part of ourselves is um, is a way of kind of being able to act, or to live in the world from this authentic space of ourselves. So the part of ourselves is always present, but it's often hidden, right? It's hidden behind the masks that we wear, that to be accepted into our families and into society. And so we hide away our authentic selves from the world, which means, of course, that the world isn't getting this best version of ourselves. So, again, the micro and the macro of it, we are limited, or limiting our true self from being in the world, expressing our gifts and talents. And therefore, the whole of it is also kind of missing out on these important aspects of who you are, in order to create a healthy and vibrant and vital whole. So consider that, right? Again, the best version of the world starts with the best version of you. So let's flip it, because sometimes that's helpful. So if we start with the world, what does the world, the best world for you, look like? Hmm. And as you think about that, then what does it require of you to show up? So, part of the importance of developing a contemplative practice or a mindfulness practice is that we can make note of our inner world, the feelings, the sensation, the reactions, the urges, and all of the rest of it. So that when we become aware of the unconscious, so that we can become aware of the unconscious and we can rewrite those scripts of who we are and what we can offer the world. So when we start to understand who the best version of us is, then we might make better choices for what is best for us in order to really give ourselves to the world, living our purpose. So there's a researcher by the name of Lisa Miller, and she's a researcher in the science of spirituality. She's also a professor in clinical psychology at Columbia, and she has a book called The Awakened Brain. And I want to read a couple of quotes for you from that I want you to kind of think about and consider. So she states, I've come to see the problems we have in leadership, education, social justice, the environment, and mental health as different emanations of the same problem: unawakened awareness. The awakened brain is the inner lens through which we access the truest and most expansive reality, that all of life is sacred and that we never walk alone. This is perhaps the biggest revelation of the awakened brain, that it's in our innate nature to build a better world, that what's good for everyone is also what's best for each of us, says Lisa Miller. So this really speaks to this connection that if you followed me, you've probably heard me mention, from the me to the we to the us, right? Moving from the individual to the togetherness with another person in relationship to you and me, to the collective, to the us of it, which also includes the me. So full circle back around. And as we've talked about this is definitely an important connection at other times in our mindfulness practice of connecting to this. And we're going to do a practice in a minute that really speaks to this kind of concept in particular. The subjects of whom spirituality and religion were highly important had a healthier neural structure than those for whom spirituality and religion held medium, low, or no importance. That came from some research that Lisa Miller did. So they actually looked at the brain function of those people who had a connection to spirituality or religion of some sort. And this has actually been shown in multiple research studies as well, is that people um, tend to be healthier and happier, generally speaking, when they have some connection to something greater than themselves. So, in the podcast I'm actually going to be releasing on Tuesday, March 7th, is about Get Connection. And part of it that we talk about is the importance of connection to be healthy and thriving humans. So, when we consider that there's three core needs of humans, three core needs: safety, connection, and satisfaction. And we see how connecting to a sense of community or something greater than ourselves not only provides connection, but in a lot of ways, it also provides a sense of safety within ourselves, right? There's a groundedness in knowing that you're not alone, that other people kind of have your back or are in it with you. And this can free us in lots of ways, right? If we have safety satisfied and we have connection satisfied, then we can look at satisfaction or focusing on fulfilling our purpose, our dharma. That allows us to kind of put all of our energy into that. So true connection is intimacy, which is the ability to allow someone to fully see us. Again, that authenticity, that best version of ourselves, our inner daimon. So, spiritual connection doesn't just mean, of course, religious affiliation. And I know for a lot of people, there's still a lot of trauma histories and abuse of power in these structures from the power structures, because of course humans fill those entities, right? And humans are very fallible, but it's the essence of the message within it. And almost all religions is about that we're all connected, that we are all divine beings, if you will, or spiritual beings having a human experience. We're in this body, but we are within us a spiritual essence. So of some whatever kind. So for some people that may be a higher power, higher self, higher thinking, whatever that might be for you. Please insert whatever word feels good for you. Okay. So, again, if we start from the us or the collective, we start to see how the world outside of us is shaped by our inner world, whether through intentional awareness or shadowy unconscious reactions to things, which is again 95% of us are kind of running our day that way, which may not be healthy or good. Can we begin to see how when we heal ourselves, we heal the world and vice versa? So for some people, they have a harder time connecting internally to this best version of themselves. So maybe instead begin with connecting to the best version of the world around you, and then how you can play that role that I mentioned earlier. And what does that look like for you? Commitment to the process of connecting to your inner daimon, right? Building your identity of self, capital S self, that is inspiring and affirmative, and building habits that reflect it takes effort and a lot of recommitment. It's like a daily affirmation every day of recommitting to the identity that you want, keeping in mind that we're reprogramming a brain that, depending on how old you are, has repeated that pattern for a great many years, that doing it for 3 days is not going to be sufficient to override that programming that may have been 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. So as you connect to the part of you that feels like your best self, what does it suggest you do? How does it answer the question, what's best for you right now? And what is the one action that you can commit to doing right now that feels good? Maybe write it out and recommit to it every day for the next little while, and just see, notice, have the experience of it for yourself, of what it feels like to recommit to something that's positive and affirmative, that's coming from this best version of you. Okay, so let's practice together. So we've been talking about this me to we to us, right? This connection of the macro and the micro, and connecting to this best version of ourselves. And the practice that just came to mind immediately was, and one of my favorite practices is loving kindness meditation, or a metta bhavana prayer or meditation. And so I invite you to join me. This will be with, of course, 3 parts for those who maybe have never done this meditation. I will say each line and you can repeat it to yourself. And we will go through the 3 kind of stanzas. The first one is I. So we speak to ourselves. If you have a hard time with that, sometimes I think, imagine a part of you, right? A younger version of you, perhaps a future part of you, or some part of you that you're struggling with or having conflict with, inner conflict with. Imagine that part of you sitting in front of you. The second is the you of this. So we're offering it to someone, an individual or a group of people in our lives. It could be someone that we're having struggle with. It could just be someone that we love and care for, and offering this to them. And then the third is the collective. Now, the collective can be lots of things. It could be a group of people. It could be your city, your community, and it could be all sentient beings. So, whatever that kind of looks like for you today, imagine that as I walk you through it. So, find a comfortable seat, whatever that looks like for you today. I always think strong back and soft belly, as my teacher taught me. We want to be able to breathe. So, we want some good posture right now. You have a choice, whatever feels comfortable for you. You can, of course, close your eyes and allow your full attention to turn inward. Or if that doesn't feel safe or comfortable for you, just lower your gaze. Lower your gaze like 9/10 shut and lower it down to some place in front of you. Begin to turn your attention inward, noticing your breath. As we do so, you might notice that it slows down and deepens. Bringing your full attention to your chest, your heart space in the middle of your chest, perhaps even placing left hand to chest and right hand to belly. As I say each line, you can repeat it to yourself. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be free of suffering. May I be free of mental anxiety. May I live in peace. May my life be blessed with ease. Now bringing up in your mind's eye a person that you care about, perhaps someone you're having a challenge with today, or even someone neutral to you. Imagining someone who might need this in this moment in your life. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be free of suffering. May you be free of mental anxiety. May you live in peace. May your life be blessed with ease. Imagining now, of course, all sentient beings or a group of people that you feel connected to, or that you wish to send this loving metta out to. May we be happy. May we be healthy. May we be free of suffering. May we be free of mental anxiety. May we live in peace. May our lives be blessed with ease. Bringing up in your mind's eye some version of yourself that needs a little extra love, kindness, compassion in this moment. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be free of suffering. May I be free of mental anxiety. May I live in peace. May my life be blessed with ease. bringing to mind that person, the person in your life who could use this love and energy right now. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be free of suffering. May you be free of mental anxiety. May you live in peace. May your life be blessed with ease. Connecting to all beings, imagining yourself in a circle with all of the people connected. This loving energy flowing from each to the next, including you. May we be happy. May we be healthy. May we be free of suffering. May we be free of mental anxiety. May we live in peace. May our lives be blessed with ease. Just taking a few moments to be with yourself. Be with the feelings in your heart space. Being with the loving kindness that you've generated. And as you sit in this loving kindness and this love that exists always in our heart space, can you take a moment to connect with your inner daimon, your good soul, your best self, giving gratitude, allowing any messages to just flow freely towards you. Love, kindness, compassion, it's always available to us for ourselves, for the other people in our lives, for the world around us. Allowing ourselves to connect to all of those wonderful feelings that allow us to feel more grounded, but also connected. What's best for me is also what's best for us. To live in a more grounded way that you can act from this place authentically, fully offering all of your strengths, your gifts, your talents to the world so that the world might be a little more vibrant and whole and healthy. And with that, I thank you. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening. We're going to be gathering in 2 weeks from tonight. We'll meet again, and we're going to be diving into limiting beliefs a little bit more. Also, some practices around, okay, so I have this limiting belief. What do I do? And so we will be kind of diving into some of those questions as well as some practices around that. Until next time, thank you so much and have a wonderful evening.